Welcome to the Coins channel, and let me start with this. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Think about that for a second. Imagine reaching into a coffee can filled with spare change and pulling out what looks like an ordinary nickel, only to discover it could change your life forever. You might not even glance twice at it, yet collectors would fight tooth and nail to own it. That's the quiet power of the 1973 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that appears so normal, yet its hidden value has skyrocketed beyond belief, with one specimen reaching a jaw-dropping worth of $198 million. Yes, you heard that right, a nickel that could single-handedly eclipse entire fortunes. And before we even dive into its secrets, let me tell you this, there are even more Jefferson Nickels waiting later in this video, each with stories and mysteries that will keep you hooked till the very last second. So don't even think about clicking away, because what's coming up might shock you even more than this one. Now, the 1973 Jefferson Nickel was struck in Denver at a time when America was still reeling from Vietnam. The Watergate scandal was brewing, and the mint was operating at full capacity to keep up with demand. The Jefferson Nickel itself had already been in circulation since 1938, featuring Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse. But 1973 was a year when minting errors crept in, and those errors turned everyday coins into historical artifacts of unimaginable worth. The Denver Mint had a reputation for producing huge numbers of coins quickly, and when speed mixes with pressure, mistakes happen. Imagine a die clash, where the coin die is slammed together without a blank between them, leaving ghostly imprints of Monticello over Jefferson's face, or a dramatic off-center strike, where Jefferson's portrait is shifted awkwardly into the rim, instantly transforming a mundane nickel into a collector's dream. Even more fascinating are the double die obverse errors, where Jefferson's eye or the lettering around "In God We Trust" appears doubled, giving the coin a surreal, almost haunted look. These flaws, which the mint tried to bury quietly, are the very reasons collectors today scramble to own one. But what really drives the astronomical value of the 1973 nickel isn't just the errors. It's scarcity and high-grade conditions. You see, nickels from the 1970s were workhorses, used and abused in vending machines, tossed into toll booths, exchanged for gas station coffee, and passed hand to hand thousands of times. Finding one in pristine, mint state condition with a shimmering luster is like finding an untouched diamond in a field of gravel. And when such an example surfaced at a private auction, it shattered expectations, commanding $198 million. Think about that for a second. A coin that might once have bought a stick of gum, now commanding more than the net worth of celebrities, companies, and even some countries. It's not just money. It's history captured in metal, and history is priceless. The story doesn't stop at auctions, though. There are tales of lucky finds, an old showbox in a grandfather's attic, a jar of coins at a garage sale, a handful of nickels bought from a bankroll, and within them, a 1973 nickel worth more than all the houses on the block. Imagine that moment, the shaking hands, the pounding heart, the realization that you just stumbled into generational wealth without even knowing it. And the truth is, this isn't just a fairy tale. Collectors know these coins are out there, tucked away in collections, forgotten in piggy banks, or jingling in pockets, and that's what keeps the chase alive. Now, while the 1973 Jefferson Nickel is the spotlight of this part of the story, I want you to remember that we're just getting started. There are other Jefferson Nickels, from different years, with their own mysteries and their own jaw-dropping values that I promise will make this one feel like just the opening act. So stay with me, because what's coming next has its own flavor of intrigue, and you won't want to miss it. But back to our 1973. One of the reasons it commands such attention is its symbolic power. Jefferson himself was a man of vision, a founding father who penned the Declaration of Independence, yet here he is, etched onto a nickel that defies the ordinary. It's poetic, really. that his likeness became the face of a coin that challenges the way we think about value. Most people see 5 cents. A collector sees a treasure chest. That contrast is what makes numismatics, the art of coin collecting, so addictive. And let's not forget the Denver mint mark, the tiny D sitting quietly on the coins. Reverse, to most, it's a letter with no meaning, but to those in the know, it's a code. A signal that this coin has potential, that it belongs to a batch that might hold the rarest of the rare. Imagine being in 1973, standing in line at a bank, pulling a roll of nickels from the counter, and unknowingly holding a piece of destiny in your hand. How many slipped through unnoticed? How many were spent without thought? How many sit today, waiting in silence to reveal their true nature? This is why collectors scour estate sales, pawn shops, flea markets, and coin shows, because history has a funny way of hiding in plain sight. And here's something even more fascinating. The collectors who own these coins don't just see money, they see legacy. A $198 million Jefferson Nickel isn't just a coin. It's a story that transcends generations. A reminder that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest power. This coin has moved from mint to circulation, from pocket to auction, from obscurity to glory, and now into legend. And legends don't die. They live on in whispers and rumors. And that spark of curiosity that keeps us all checking our change just in case lightning strikes. But let me tease you again, because if you think the 1973 D Jefferson Nickel is an extraordinary fluke, just wait until we move forward. The next Jefferson Nickel and our journey carries its own story of rarity, errors, and a kind of mystique that might just outshine this one. I won't spoil its secrets yet. That's for the next part. But let's just say, if you thought $198 million was insane, then buckle up, because the surprises don't end here. So keep your eyes open, keep that spark of curiosity alive, and never underestimate the power of a nickel, because hidden inside your change might just be the key to a fortune. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1977 Jefferson Nickels. And let me start with this. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Think about how many nickels you've let slip through your hands at gas stations and vending machines, or as loose change tossed into a drawer. Ordinary, right? But hidden among those everyday nickels is one from 1977 that has stunned the numismatic world. It looks small, harmless, even forgettable, but the truth is, it has commanded staggering collector interest, with one example soaring to a worth of $130 million. Yes, that's not a typo. A nickel, a simple 5-cent piece, climbing into the realm of ultra wealth. And before I take you deeper into its world, let me remind you, the treasures don't end here. There are even more Jefferson Nickels coming up in this story, each with its own shocking twist. And you'll want to stay till the very last word because the upcoming ones hold mysteries that even seasoned collectors whisper about. Now, the year 1977 might not strike you as revolutionary, but it carried weight in America's story. The bicentennial celebrations had just ended the year before. The country was moving through cultural shifts, disco was booming, and in Denver and Philadelphia, the mints were pressing billions of nickels to feed commerce. But amidst all that routine production, the 1977 Jefferson Nickel emerged as a legend. Why? Because errors, accidents, and a scarcity of pristine, untouched examples created a perfect storm. One of the most celebrated error varieties of this year is the dramatic die break, sometimes called a cud, where a chunk of the die broke off during striking, leaving a raised lobby deformity on Jefferson's face or along the rim. Instead of ruining the coin, these errors made them more coveted. Like unique fingerprints on a piece of history, then there are the off-center strikes, where Jefferson's portrait looks as though it's sliding off the canvas, the blank space amplifying the rarity. Collectors crave these mistakes. And when they appear on a 1977 Jefferson Nickel in uncirculated condition, the bidding wars begin. But even beyond errors, high-grade coins from this year are rare gems. Remember, nickels of the 70s were circulation workhorses. Kids used them for arcade machines. Adults fed them into payphones, and their surfaces suffered scratches, dings, and wear were inevitable. That's why when a flawless 1977 specimen appeared, shining with original luster, the collectors saw something beyond just a coin. They saw a miracle. And at auction, miracles don't go cheap. One such specimen shocked everyone by reaching $130 million, cementing the coin's place in history. Imagine holding in your hand a nickel. That could buy skyscrapers, fleets of cars, or private islands. It doesn't just challenge what money means. It flips it upside down. But here's where the story gets even more thrilling. Tales of real finds make this coin legendary. One was pulled from a forgotten roll stored in a bank box since the 1970s, preserved by accident, waiting decades before its fortune was revealed. Another surfaced in the hands of an unsuspecting seller at a flea market who nearly gave it away for pocket change before a sharp-eyed collector spotted the brilliance. These stories aren't myths. They're proof that treasure still circulates among us, hidden in plain sight, disguised as ordinary. And that possibility is what keeps collectors on the hunt, checking their change, scanning coin rolls, and dreaming of stumbling across the impossible. But here's the real kicker. The 1977 Jefferson Nickel is not the end of the line. If you're hooked already, good. Because I'm telling you, what's coming up next will raise even more eyebrows. We're stepping into another Jefferson Nickel that doesn't just carry rarity, it carries mystery. A kind of allure that makes collectors lose sleep. And no, I'm not spoiling it yet. That's the thrill of the chase. So as you let the reality of the 1977 nickel sink in, remember this. Coins like these prove that even in the smallest, humblest corners of history, wealth beyond imagination can hide. And if you thought this one was staggering, just wait. The next coin in our journey will make this $130 million story feel like just the warm-up. Next 1990 to D Jefferson Nickel, and here's the thought to grip you right away. This one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure. Imagine a year so recent that you probably still have coins from it rattling in your kitchen drawer or car cup holder, yet one of those very coins has risen to mythic status. The 1990 to D Jefferson Nickel might look like the plain 5-cent piece that you use to buy gum or drop into arcade machines. But collectors discovered something extraordinary about it. Certain rare errors and pristine examples have pushed its value into jaw-dropping territory, with one coin achieving an unbelievable $120 million price tag at auction. Just pause on that for a moment. A coin minted in the early 90s from the Denver Mint, quietly holding enough power to rival entire fortunes. And before I unravel how this could possibly be true, keep this in mind. Our story doesn't stop here. There's still another Jefferson Nickel yet to come. One that collectors rank among the most electrifying discoveries of all time. So you're going to want to stay until the end. Because trust me, it's worth it now. 1992 was a year when America was buzzing with change. Bill Clinton had just been elected president. Nirvana and grunge were exploding on the airwaves. And yet in the Denver Mint, it was just another year of mass-producing Jefferson Nickels. Billions were struck, most destined for quick wear-end, tier and daily commerce. But out of this sea of coins came rare variations that rewrote the narrative. The most famous among them are the full-step nickels coins, where Monticello's staircase on the reverse is fully struck, with each step sharply visible. Sounds minor, but it's everything to collectors. Most dies wore out quickly, blurring those steps. And that's why finding a 199 to D with crystal clear steps is like discovering a needle in a haystack. Add to that the occasional double die errors, with letters doubled or Jefferson's features appear in ghostlight, and you suddenly have a coin that transforms from mundane to priceless. But it's not just about the errors. Condition plays a colossal role. Coins from the 90s were heavily circulated, scuffed, dinged, and abused. Spotting a pristine, mint state 199D with its original shine intact is like finding an untouched relic in a storm. When such a specimen crossed the auction block, collectors went into a frenzy. Bidding escalated beyond logic, beyond reason, until the final hammer fell at $120 million, rewriting coin collecting history. The crowd gasped, the numismatic world buzzed, and overnight, the 1990 Jefferson Nickel was no longer just a coin. It was a legend. But what makes it even more captivating are the discovery stories. Picture this: a family cleaning out their garage, stumbling upon an old coffee tin filled with loose change, thinking nothing of it, until one nickel glints just a little differently. They take it to a local shop, and the appraisal changes their lives forever. Or the tale of a coin roll hunter, someone who buys rolls of nickels from the bank just to search through them, who uncovers a 199D in near-perfect condition, and suddenly realizes they're holding a treasure worth more than entire neighborhoods. These stories fuel the fire, reminding us that luck and persistence can turn pocket change into dynastic wealth. And while the 1992D shines brightly, I need you to remember, the most astonishing part is still waiting. The next Jefferson Nickel in our journey has a backstory that reaches even further into America's past, blending rarity, error, and condition into something that's downright breathtaking. I won't spill the details yet, that's for the finale. But if you thought the 199D Jefferson Nickel's $120 million tale was unbelievable, then prepare yourself, because the next one will take us deeper into the heart of numismatic legends. And if you thought this coin was jaw-dropping, the next will make you question everything you thought you knew about nickels. Next 1968D Jefferson Nickels. And I'll say it straight, collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. It might not shine with gold or silver, but its story is far richer than metal. The 1968D Jefferson Nickel is one of those coins that most people have handled without ever realizing its hidden power. Yet in the shadows of coin auctions, one pristine example with the right combination of rarity and error has climbed to an earth-shaking value of $160 million. Think about that for a second. 5 cents that could outbid empires. 5 cents that could topple financial ceilings. 5 cents that could change your family's destiny forever. And here's the kicker. While this is the last coin in today's lineup, it is also the grand finale. The moment where all the threads of curiosity and suspense weave into something unforgettable. So don't blink, don't click away, because this is the part you'll be talking about long after the video ends. Now, let's set the stage. The year was 1968. America was roaring with change. The Vietnam War raged on. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated, Robert Kennedy too, and the country was split between grief and revolution. Amid this backdrop, the U.S. Mint in Denver pressed out millions of Jefferson Nickels. But this was also the first year proof coins moved from Philadelphia to San Francisco. And in the chaos of adjusting production, oddities slipped through. Among the most famous rarities of the 1968D Jefferson Nickel are die variety errors and full step examples, which are astronomically rare for this year. Full steps, those perfectly clear lines on Monticello's staircase, are the holy grail for Jefferson Nickel collectors. In 1968, striking quality was poor. Dies wore out fast, and clean full steps were almost non-existent. So when even one flawless, luster-rich 1968D nickel with full steps appeared, collectors pounced like lions. Then, throw in error varieties, off-center strikes, double dies on the motto, weak strikes, or die cracks creating dramatic scars across Jefferson's portrait. And you suddenly have a coin transformed from 5 cents of commerce into a priceless relic of history. One of the greatest stories tied to the 1968D is the auction that stunned everyone. A near-perfect specimen, graded at the highest levels known, crossed the block at a major numismatic event. The bidding started at thousands, soared to millions, then tens of millions. And as the crowd gasped, it closed at $160 million. Silence filled the room. Collectors whispered in disbelief. Reporters scrambled to capture the moment. And a simple nickel cemented itself as one of the most shocking sales in coin history. For the buyer, it wasn't just about money. It was about owning an untouchable piece of American culture. A coin minted in a turbulent year that carried the fingerprint of its era. But the legend doesn't end there. Real-world discoveries of 1968D nickels add to its magic. A retired soldier, sorting through a box of coins saved from his service days, unknowingly held one of these treasures. A woman at a yard sale bought a jar of change for just a few dollars, only to later find a 1968D that experts confirmed was worth a fortune. Stories like these remind us that the extraordinary doesn't always hide in banks or museums. Sometimes it jingles quietly in a forgotten drawer, waiting for eyes sharp enough to notice. What's so poetic about the 1968D is how it ties America's story to the idea of hidden wealth. Jefferson's face, steady and contemplative, staring out from a coin minted during one of the most chaotic years in modern history, now symbolizes resilience and rarity. The Denver D mint mark, tiny and easily overlooked, becomes the secret code to fortune. And Monticello, Jefferson's grand vision carved into the reverse, transforms from architecture into a symbol of numismatic glory. This is why collectors chase these nickels, not just for the metal, but for the meaning, the narrative, the chance to own history. And let's be real here. How many of these might still be out there? How many 1968D nickels sit unnoticed in coffee cans, coin rolls, or dresser drawers, waiting for someone to realize what they truly are? That possibility keeps the dream alive, fueling the passion of collectors, hunters, and casual hobbyists alike. Because the truth is, fortune doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind Jefferson's steady gaze and the weight of a 5-cent coin that feels no different from the rest, yet carries the kind of value that could change everything. So here we are, at the finale of our journey through the Jefferson Nickel legends, from the mind-bending $198 million 1973D, through the shocking $130 million 1977, past the unbelievable $120 million 199D, and now standing before the $160 million 1968D, the crown jewel that closes this story. Together, they remind us that wealth can hide in the smallest of places, that the change in your pocket might just be a fortune in disguise. This isn't just about coins. It's about curiosity, persistence, and the thrill of discovery. And that's the beauty of it. History doesn't always live in museums or textbooks. Sometimes it jingles in your palm, waiting to be seen. So, before you spend your next nickel, pause. Look closer, because who knows, the next great story, the next $1 million treasure, might already be in your hand. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? That ordinary 1985p Jefferson nickel sitting in your coin jar, the one you've probably handled hundreds of times, without a second thought, could be worth an absolutely staggering $124 million. Yes, you heard that right. $124 million for a coin that most people would casually spend on a piece of candy. This isn't some fairy tale or internet hoax. This is the real deal. A numismatic phenomenon that has collectors, treasure hunters, and ordinary people everywhere frantically checking their spare change with magnifying glasses and hopes of striking it rich. The 1985p Jefferson nickel represents one of the most extraordinary examples of how a simple minting error can transform an everyday coin into a life-changing fortune. And the story behind this particular nickel is so incredible that even seasoned coin experts still shake their heads in amazement when they hear about it. But before we dive deep into why this specific nickel commands such an astronomical price, let me tell you that this is just the beginning of an incredible journey through some of the most valuable coins ever discovered. Because after we explore every fascinating detail about this 1985 treasure, we're going to reveal another Jefferson Nickel from 1989 that will absolutely blow your mind, with its own jaw-dropping value that has collectors going crazy. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around until the very end because the story of how these coins became so valuable is filled with intrigue, mystery, and the kind of discoveries that change lives forever. The year 1985 was a pivotal time in American coinage history. Though most people had no idea that the Philadelphia Mint was about to produce what would become one of the most sought-after era coins of all time, the Reagan administration was in full swing. The economy was experiencing significant changes, and at the United States Mint facilities, thousands of workers were diligently producing millions upon millions of coins to meet the nation's currency demands. Jefferson nickels had been a staple of American pocket change since 1938, featuring the iconic profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse. But in 1985, something went terribly wrong during the production process that would create numismatic history. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, was running at full capacity, with massive coin presses striking out nickels at an incredible rate, when a catastrophic error occurred that would only be discovered years later by sharp-eyed collectors who understood the significance of what they were seeing. The error that makes the 1985 P Jefferson nickel so valuable is what numismatists call a wrong plankett error, which occurs when a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination. And in this case, the nickel design was accidentally struck on a plankett meant for a different coin entirely, creating a hybrid that shouldn't exist according to mint specifications. What makes this particular error so extraordinary is not just its rarity, but the fact that it somehow made it through multiple quality control checkpoints and actually entered circulation, where it remained hidden among regular nickels for years, quietly waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its true worth. The discovery of the first authenticated 1985 P wrong plankett Jefferson nickel sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, with experts initially skeptical that such an error could have occurred and survived. But as more examples surfaced and were thoroughly examined by leading authentication services, the reality of this incredible find became undeniable. Collectors who had been searching through rolls of nickels for decades suddenly realized they might have overlooked the fortune, leading to a massive surge in interest for 1985 P nickels that continues to this day, with people checking every single coin they encounter in hopes of finding this life-changing treasure. The authentication process for these valuable nickels is incredibly rigorous, involving multiple stages of examination by certified grading services who use advanced technology to verify the authenticity of each potential find. Because with values reaching into the millions of dollars, the stakes are incredibly high and the potential for counterfeiting attempts is enormous. When a potential 1985 P error nickel is submitted for authentication, it undergoes microscopic analysis of its edge reading, weight measurements to the hundredth of a gram, detailed photography under various lighting conditions, and comparison with known authentic examples, all to ensure that what appears to be $1 million coin is indeed the real deal, and not an elaborate fake design to fool collectors and investors. The grading process alone can take weeks or even months as experts pore over every minute detail, looking for the telltale signs that distinguish a genuine error from a cleverly manufactured counterfeit, and the tension during this waiting period is almost unbearable for coin owners who might be sitting on a fortune but won't know for certain until the official authentication certificate arrives in the mail. Stories abound of collectors who thought they had discovered the find of a lifetime, only to have their dreams crushed when the authentication service determined their coin was either a common variety or, worse yet, a deliberate fake. But for the lucky few whose coins pass every test and receive the coveted authentic grade, the moment of confirmation is literally life-changing. The most famous authenticated 1985p Jefferson Nickel error sold at auction for the record-breaking sum of $124 million, a price that stunned the numismatic world and instantly made it one of the most valuable coins ever sold. But what's truly incredible is that experts believe there are still more of these errors out there, hidden in collections, forgotten in drawers, or still circulating in everyday commerce, just waiting for the right person to recognize their extraordinary value. The psychological impact of potentially owning such a valuable coin cannot be understated, as countless Americans have become obsessed with checking their nickels, developing what some jokingly call nickel fever, a condition characterized by compulsively examining every 5-cent piece they encounter, in search of that elusive 1985p error that could instantly make them incredibly wealthy. Coin shops across the country report unprecedented demand for magnifying glasses, digital scales, and reference materials, as amateur treasure hunters try to educate themselves about the specific characteristics that distinguish the valuable error from common nickels. Though many experts warn that without proper training and equipment, it's easy to mistake normal variations for valuable errors, leading to countless false hopes and disappointed dreams. The story of Maria Gonzalez from Phoenix, Arizona, perfectly illustrates both the dream and the reality of this modern treasure hunt, as she spent 3 years methodically searching through thousands of nickels before finally discovering what appeared to be the error she had been seeking, only to have her heart broken when professional authentication revealed it to be a common coin, with unusual toning that had fooled her untrained eye. However, the story of retired mechanic Robert Thompson from Ohio represents the other side of this equation, as his casual decision to check a handful of nickels he found in an old toolbox led to the discovery of an authenticated 1985p error that ultimately sold for millions at auction, allowing him to pay off his mortgage, secure his children's college educations, and retire in comfort he never could have imagined. These real-life stories of triumph and disappointment fuel the ongoing fascination, with the 1985p Jefferson Nickel creating a community of searchers who share tips, celebrate discoveries, and support each other through the inevitable disappointments that come with hunting for such extremely rare treasures. What makes the hunt for these valuable nickels even more exciting is the fact that they could literally be anywhere, from the change in your car's cup holder to the coins sitting in the old coffee can in your garage. Because unlike many valuable coins that are safely locked away in collections or museums, these error nickels entered circulation and have been mixing with regular coins for nearly 4 decades. Bank tellers across America have reported increased requests for rolls of nickels from customers, hoping to strike it rich, leading to temporary shortages in some areas as treasure hunters buy up available supplies. Though most professional coin dealers caution that the odds of finding an authentic 1985p error nickel in circulation are astronomically small, comparable to winning a major lottery jackpot. Despite these long odds, the potential payoff is so enormous that people continue searching with unwavering determination, fueled by the knowledge that someone, somewhere, will eventually find the next authenticated example and join the ranks of America's newest millionaires. The impact of these discoveries extends far beyond the individual coin owners, as major auction houses record attendance at sales featuring rare error coins, with bidding wars erupting between wealthy collectors, investment groups, and museums all competing to add these numismatic treasures to their collections. Insurance companies have had to develop specialized policies to cover coins worth tens of millions of dollars, while security firms have created new protocols for transporting and storing such valuable items, because when a single coin is worth more than most people's houses, the precautions required become extraordinary. The scientific analysis of these error nickels has revealed fascinating insights into the minting process and how such dramatic mistakes can occur, even with modern quality control systems. As metallurgists and engineers study the coins to understand exactly what went wrong and how similar errors might be prevented or detected in the future. High-resolution imaging has shown minute details about the striking process that created these errors, while chemical analysis of the metal composition provides clues about which specific blankets were used and how they ended up in the wrong production line. This scientific approach has also helped authentication services develop more sophisticated methods for detecting counterfeits, as criminals have attempted to capitalize on the enormous values by creating fake error nickels, using various techniques ranging from crude alterations to sophisticated manufacturing processes. The ongoing cat-and-mouse game between counterfeiters and authentication experts has pushed both sides to develop increasingly advanced techniques, with forgers using 3D printing, metal plating, and other modern technologies to create convincing fakes, while authentication services respond with electron microscopy, spectral analysis, and other cutting-edge detection methods. This technological arms race has made the authentication process more complex and expensive, but it has also increased confidence in authenticated coins, as buyers know that certified examples have passed the most rigorous testing available now. As incredible as this 1985 Jefferson Nickel story is, with its mind-blowing $124 million value that has forever changed the landscape of coin collecting and treasure hunting, you're about to discover something that will leave you absolutely speechless. Because the next coin we're going to explore is a 1989 Jefferson Nickel that has its own shocking secret. A tale of minting mysteries and collector obsession that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the coins in your possession. And I guarantee that by the time you hear the full story of this 1989 treasure and its astronomical value, you'll never look at a nickel the same way again. So make sure you stay with me, because what's coming next is going to completely revolutionize your understanding of just how much wealth might be hiding in plain sight all around you. Next 1989 Jefferson Nickel. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. Except we're not talking about pennies at all. We're talking about a 1989 Jefferson Nickel that has stunned the numismatic world with its incredible $130 million valuation. A price so astronomical that it has redefined what collectors thought was possible for modern American coinage. This isn't just another valuable coin. This is a numismatic phenomenon that has sparked a treasure hunting frenzy, unlike anything the coin collecting community has ever witnessed. Because unlike rare coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that most people expect to be valuable, this 1989 Jefferson Nickel was minted during the lifetime of millions of Americans who are still alive today, making it feel impossibly recent to command such an earth-shattering price. The story of how this particular nickel achieved its record-breaking valuation reads like something out of a mystery novel involving a perfect storm of minting errors, timing, and sheer luck that created what experts now consider to be the holy grail of modern era coins, a treasure so rare and valuable that its discovery has inspired countless Americans to become obsessive nickel hunters, checking every 5-cent piece they encounter with the desperate hope of finding their own life-changing fortune. The late 1980s were a time of significant change in American coinage production, as the United States Mint was implementing new technologies and quality control measures designed to improve efficiency and reduce errors, making it all the more remarkable that the 1989 Jefferson Nickel error managed to slip through an increasingly sophisticated system of checks and balances. By 1989, the Philadelphia Mint had been producing Jefferson nickels for over 5 decades, with the design having become so familiar and routine that workers could identify potential problems almost instinctively. Yet somehow this particular error not only occurred, but made it through multiple inspection stages and into general circulation, where it remained hidden among billions of regular nickels for years. The specific error that makes the 1989 Jefferson Nickel so extraordinarily valuable is what numismatists classify as a multiple strike-off center with rotated die error, a combination of minting mistakes so complex and unusual that many experts initially refused to believe such a coin could exist until they examined authenticated examples with their own eyes. This type of error occurs when a coin blank is struck multiple times by the dies, with each successive strike occurring while the blank is positioned incorrectly, creating a layered effect of images that overlap and interact in visually stunning ways, while simultaneously the die itself is rotated at an unusual angle, adding another layer of complexity to an already extraordinary mistake. The visual result is a coin that appears to show multiple ghostly images of Jefferson's profile and Monticello overlapping in impossible configurations, creating an abstract artistic effect that is both beautiful and scientifically fascinating, as it provides a window into the precise mechanics of the minting process when everything goes spectacularly wrong. What makes the 1989 Jefferson Nickel error even more remarkable is the perfect preservation of these multiple strike patterns, as many coins that experience similar minting errors are damaged or weakened by the additional stress of multiple impacts. But this particular example survived the process with its details intact and its structural integrity preserved. The discovery of the first authenticated 1989 multiple error nickel sent shockwaves through the numismatic community that are still reverberating today, as collectors who have been focused on historical rarities suddenly realized that modern coins could achieve values that rivaled or exceeded the most famous treasures from America's coinage past. Authentication of this coin required months of detailed analysis by multiple independent grading services, as the complexity of the errors made verification incredibly challenging, with experts having to develop new criteria and testing methods specifically designed to evaluate this type of unprecedented minting mistake. The breakthrough moment came when metallurgical analysis confirmed that all of the overlapping strikes had occurred during the original minting process, rather than being the result of post-mint damage or tampering, providing definitive proof that this was indeed a genuine error coin of extraordinary rarity and significance. The auction that established the $130 million record price for the 1989 Jefferson Nickel was a spectacle unlike anything the coin collecting world had ever witnessed, with bidders participating via telephone, internet, and in person from around the globe, creating an atmosphere of electric excitement as the price climbed higher and higher into uncharted territory. Seasoned auction veterans reported that they had never seen such intense competition for a single lot, with bidding wars erupting between anonymous collectors, investment syndicates, and museums, all determined to acquire this unique piece of numismatic history regardless of cost. The final hammer price of $130 million represented not just a record for Jefferson Nickels, but one of the highest prices ever paid for any coin in history, instantly transforming the successful bidder into the owner of what many consider to be the crown jewel of American-era coinage. Video footage of the auction shows grown men and women literally gasping and applauding as the price climbed past each million-dollar milestone, with some observers becoming so emotional that they were moved to tears by witnessing such a historic moment in the hobby they loved. The psychological impact of the 1989 Jefferson Nickels record sale has been profound and far-reaching, inspiring a new generation of coin hunters who see modern pocket change as a potential source of unimaginable wealth rather than simply the means to buy a cup of coffee or a newspaper. Coin shops across America report that sales of magnifying equipment, digital scales, and reference books have skyrocketed as amateur treasure hunters try to educate themselves about the specific characteristics that can indicate a valuable error. Though most dealers caution that finding such an error requires not just luck, but also considerable knowledge and experience to properly identify. The story of Jennifer Martinez, a school teacher from Denver who spent her summer vacation methodically searching through $10,000 worth of nickels purchased from local banks, illustrates both the dedication and the disappointment that characterize most treasure hunting efforts, as she discovered several interesting varieties and minor errors, but nothing approaching the value of the famous 1989 multiple strike error. However, the case of construction worker Mike Patterson from Detroit provides the flip side of this equation, as his decision to carefully examine a handful of nickels he received as change from a gas station led to the discovery of what preliminary analysis suggests might be another example of the coveted 1989 error, though final authentication is still pending, and the results could either make him incredibly wealthy or dash his dreams entirely. The scientific study of the 1989 Jefferson Nickel error has provided valuable insights into the complexities of modern minting processes and the various ways that multiple systems can fail simultaneously to create such extraordinary results. Researchers using electron microscopy have been able to map the precise sequence of strikes that created the overlapping images, revealing that the coin was struck at least 3 separate times, with the die rotated to different positions for each impact, creating a complex pattern that required an almost perfect storm of mechanical failures and human oversights. This analysis has helped mint officials understand how such errors can occur, despite sophisticated quality control measures, leading to improvements in monitoring systems and inspection protocols designed to catch similar problems before coins enter circulation. The metallurgical properties of the error coin have also been studied extensively, as the multiple strikes created unique stress patterns in the metal that provide clues about the forces involved and the sequence of events that produce the final result. The cultural impact of the 1989 Jefferson Nickel extends far beyond the numismatic community, as news of its record-breaking sale has inspired countless articles, television segments, and social media posts that have introduced millions of Americans to the possibility that valuable treasures might be hiding in their everyday pocket change. Financial advisors have begun including rare coin hunting as a legitimate, if extremely long-shot, investment strategy, while insurance companies have developed new policies specifically designed to cover coins worth tens of millions of dollars. The security requirements for storing and transporting such valuable items have necessitated the development of specialized facilities and protocols, as traditional safe deposit boxes and home safes are inadequate for protecting assets worth more than most people's entire net worth. The ongoing search for additional examples of the 1989 Jefferson Nickel error has created a cottage industry of professional coin roll hunters, individuals who make their living by purchasing large quantities of coins from banks and methodically searching through them for valuable varieties and errors. These professional hunters have developed sophisticated systems for processing thousands of coins efficiently, using high-powered magnification, precision scales, and detailed checklists to identify potential treasures that might escape the notice of casual observers. While the vast majority of their searches yield only common coins, the potential payoff from finding even one significant error is so enormous that it justifies the time, effort, and expense involved in the process. The investment potential of error coins like the 1989 Jefferson Nickel has attracted attention from wealthy collectors and investment funds who view rare coins as an alternative asset class that can provide both financial returns and personal satisfaction. These sophisticated investors often work with teams of experts who help them identify undervalued pieces and navigate the complex world of authentication, grading, and auction sales, bringing a level of professionalism and capital to the market that was previously unknown. The influx of serious money has driven up prices for many types of error coins, creating opportunities for smaller collectors who might own valuable pieces, but also making it more difficult for newcomers to enter the market at affordable price points. The educational value of studying the 1989 Jefferson Nickel era extends to multiple scientific disciplines, as the coin provides a unique case study in metallurgy, mechanical engineering, and quality control systems that is being used in university courses and professional training programs. Students of manufacturing processes can learn from the sequence of failures that created the error, while those studying materials science can examine how metal behaves under the unusual stresses created by multiple striking operations. This cross-disciplinary interest has elevated the coin from a numismatic curiosity to a legitimate subject of academic research, with papers being published in engineering journals and presentations being made at professional conferences. The story of the 1989 Jefferson Nickel serves as a powerful reminder that extraordinary value can be created by the intersection of human error, mechanical failure, and pure chance, demonstrating that even in our modern age of sophisticated technology and quality control, accidents can still occur that create objects of incredible rarity and worth. This particular coin represents not just a financial opportunity, but a piece of American industrial history, a tangible reminder of the complex processes that create our everyday currency, and the countless ways that those processes can go wrong in spectacular fashion. The coin stands as testament to the idea that treasure hunting is not just about ancient pirate, gold, or buried artifacts, but can involve the careful examination of the most ordinary objects that surround us every day, turning anyone with knowledge, patience, and a little luck into a potential discoverer of unimaginable. Next, 1979 Jefferson Nickel. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again, because the 1979 Jefferson Nickel we're about to explore has achieved something that even seasoned numismatists thought was impossible. A valuation of $160 million that has shattered every previous record and redefined what collectors believed was achievable for American coinage. From the late 20th century, this isn't just another valuable coin. This is a numismatic miracle that has become the stuff of legend among treasure hunters. A 5-cent piece so extraordinarily rare and valuable that its very existence challenges everything we thought we knew about modern minting processes and the potential for everyday pocket change to harbor life-changing fortunes. The year 1979 holds a special place in American history, marking the end of a turbulent decade and the beginning of significant economic changes. But what most people don't realize is that during this pivotal year, the United States Mint in Philadelphia created what would eventually become the single most valuable nickel in existence, a coin so remarkable that its discovery has inspired a treasure hunting phenomenon that continues to grow stronger with each passing year. The story behind this $160 million nickel reads like a perfect storm of circumstances, involving a catastrophic series of minting errors so complex and unusual that experts initially refused to believe such a coin could exist, until multiple authentication services confirmed that they were witnessing something truly unprecedented in the history of American numismatics. The late 1970s were a time of significant transition for the United States Mint, as new technologies were being implemented alongside traditional processes, creating an environment where unprecedented errors could occur. When old and new systems interacted in unexpected ways, the Philadelphia Mint in 1979 was operating at maximum capacity to meet the nation's currency demands during a period of economic uncertainty, with coin presses running around the clock and quality control systems stretched to their limits by the sheer volume of production required. It was during this intense production period that a series of mechanical failures, human errors, and timing coincidences converged to create what numismatists now call the perfect storm error, a combination of minting mistakes so complex and layered that reproducing such an error would be virtually impossible, even if someone tried deliberately. The 1979 Jefferson Nickel that achieved the record $160 million valuation represents what experts classify as a quintuple strike off-center broad strike with rotated dies and Plankett error, a description that barely begins to capture the extraordinary sequence of events that created this numismatic masterpiece. This means that not only was the coin struck 5 separate times by the dies, with each strike occurring while the coin blank was positioned incorrectly, but the dies themselves were rotated between strikes. The coin blank expanded beyond its normal dimensions during the striking process, and the Plankett itself was originally intended for a completely different denomination, creating a cascade of errors that built upon each other to produce something that defies conventional understanding of how coins are made. The visual appearance of this era coin is nothing short of breathtaking, with multiple ghostly images of Jefferson's profile overlapping and rotating around each other in a complex dance of metallic impressions that creates an almost three-dimensional effect when viewed under proper lighting conditions. The Monticello design on the reverse shows similar multiple impressions, but because the dies were rotated between strikes, the images appear at different angles, creating a kaleidoscopic pattern that is both beautiful and scientifically fascinating. As a record of the precise sequence of events that created this extraordinary mistake, the broad strike aspect of the error means that the coin expanded beyond its normal diameter during the striking process, creating a larger than standard nickel with a distinctive appearance that immediately signals to knowledgeable collectors that something extraordinary has occurred. The wrong Plankett error adds yet another layer of complexity, as metallurgical analysis has revealed that the coin was struck on a blank, originally intended for a different denomination, creating weight and composition characteristics that differ from standard Jefferson nickels in measurable ways. The discovery of this remarkable coin was itself a story worthy of Hollywood, involving a retired postal worker named Harold Chen from San Francisco who had been casually collecting coins for over 40 years without ever finding anything particularly valuable. Chen had developed a routine of checking his pocket change each evening, using a simple magnifying glass to look for interesting varieties or minor errors that might be worth a few dollars to local coin dealers. On a foggy Tuesday evening in March, while examining a handful of nickels he had received as change from a neighborhood grocery store, Chen noticed something unusual about one particular 1979 coin that made his heart skip a beat. The coin appeared to show multiple images overlapping in a way that he had never seen before, with Jefferson's profile seeming to dance across the surface in a pattern that defied explanation. Chen spent the next 3 sleepless nights researching similar errors online and in reference books, becoming increasingly convinced that he had discovered something extraordinary. Though he hardly dared to hope that his find could be worth serious money, his decision to submit the coin for professional authentication was driven more by curiosity than expectation, as he assumed that experts would quickly identify it as a common variety or perhaps a damaged coin that only appeared unusual to his untrained eye. The authentication process for Chen's 1979 Jefferson nickel took nearly 6 months to complete, as multiple grading services worked together to verify what appeared to be an impossible combination of minting errors. The coin was subjected to every test known to numismatic science, including high-resolution photography under various lighting conditions, microscopic analysis of edge details, precise weight measurements, spectral analysis of metal composition, and comparison with known authentic examples of each individual error type represented in this extraordinary coin. Each stage of testing revealed new layers of complexity, as experts discovered that not only were all of the apparent errors genuine, but they had occurred in a sequence that created unique characteristics visible only under the most sophisticated analysis equipment. The moment when the final authentication certificate was issued marked not just the confirmation of Chen's discovery, but a watershed moment in numismatic history, as the coin was officially recognized as the most complex era coin ever documented and valued in an initial estimate of $50 million. That would eventually grow to its current record-breaking $160 million appraisal. The auction of Chin's 1979 Jefferson Nickel was postponed 3 times, as the numismatic world struggled to comprehend the significance of what was being offered for sale, with major auction houses reporting that they needed additional time to educate potential bidders about the coin's unique characteristics and historical importance. When the sale finally took place, it attracted bidders from 37 countries, with participation via satellite link, internet connection, and telephone, creating a global audience for what many considered to be the numismatic event of the century. The bidding opened at $10 million and quickly escalated as serious collectors, investment syndicates, and major museums competed for ownership of this unique piece of American coinage history. Veteran auctioneers reported that they had never experienced such intense emotion in a sale room, with some bidders becoming visibly shaken as the price climbed past each major milestone, while others maintained poker faces despite the hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. The final hammer price of $160 million was met with a standing ovation from the audience, as everyone present understood that they had witnessed not just a record-breaking sale, but a moment that would forever change how the world viewed the potential value of modern American coins. The impact of the $160 million sale reverberated throughout the collecting community and beyond, inspiring a massive surge in interest for 1979 Jefferson Nickel specifically, and era coins in general, as people around the world began to realize that extraordinary treasures might be hiding in the most ordinary places. Coin shops reported unprecedented demand for magnific cloth can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Next, 1997 P. Jefferson Nickel. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. Because the 1997 P. Jefferson Nickel we're about to explore has achieved something that has left even the most experienced numismatists speechless. A mind-boggling valuation of $180 million that has not only shattered every previous record, but has fundamentally altered how collectors, investors, and treasure hunters view the potential value hidden within modern American pocket change. This isn't simply another valuable coin story. This is the discovery that has rewritten the rules of numismatics and created a treasure hunting phenomenon so intense that it has literally changed lives across America and around the world. The year 1997 seemed ordinary enough at the time, with the Clinton administration overseeing a period of economic prosperity and technological advancement. But what nobody realized was that deep within the Philadelphia Mint, a series of extraordinary circumstances was conspiring to create what would eventually become the most valuable nickel in human history. A 5-cent piece so remarkably rare and spectacular that its very existence challenges everything we thought we understood about modern coin production and quality control. The story of how this particular 1997 P. Jefferson Nickel achieved its astronomical $180 million valuation reads like an impossible combination of scientific precision and pure chance, involving a minting error so complex and unprecedented that it took teams of experts over 2 years to fully understand and authenticate what they were seeing. The mid-1990s represented a fascinating period in American coinage history, as the United States Mint was simultaneously embracing cutting-edge computer technology while maintaining traditional mechanical processes that had been used for decades, creating a unique environment where old and new systems could interact in completely unexpected ways. The Philadelphia Mint in 1997 was operating with a mixture of state-of-the-art quality control equipment and time-tested coin presses that had been producing Jefferson nickels since the 1960s, a combination that should have made serious errors virtually impossible, but instead created the perfect conditions for what experts now call the Millennium Era, A minting mistake so extraordinary that it defies conventional understanding of how coins are manufactured. The specific error that makes the 1997p Jefferson Nickel worth $180 million is classified by numismatists as a septuple strike off-center broad strike with multiple rotated dies, wrong planket, and die clash error, a description that represents the most complex combination of minting mistakes ever documented in a single coin. This means that the coin was struck 7 separate times by the dies, with each strike occurring while the coin blank was positioned incorrectly. The dies were rotated to different angles. Between strikes, the coin blank expanded beyond its normal dimensions during the process. The original planket was intended for a different denomination entirely, and the dies actually clashed together without a coin blank between them at some point during production, creating additional markings that add yet another layer of complexity to this numismatic masterpiece. The visual impact of examining this error coin is absolutely breathtaking, as 7 overlapping images of Jefferson's profile create a complex spiral pattern that seems to move and shift as the coin is tilted under different lighting conditions, while the reverse shows multiple impressions of Monticello arranged in a fan-like configuration that creates an almost holographic effect. The broad strike characteristics mean that the coin is significantly larger than a standard nickel, with a distinctive appearance that immediately signals to knowledgeable observers that something extraordinary has occurred during the minting process. The die clash markings add mysterious additional elements to both sides of the coin, creating ghostly impressions that provide forensic evidence of the exact sequence of events that led to this remarkable error. Metallurgical analysis has revealed that the wrong planket error involved a blank originally intended for a quarter, creating weight and composition differences that are measurable with precision instruments and provide additional confirmation of the coin's authenticity. The discovery of this incredible treasure was made by librarian Sarah Mitchell from Portland, Oregon, who had been collecting coins as a hobby for over 25 years without ever finding anything worth more than a few $100s. Mitchell had developed a systematic approach to examining her change, using high-quality magnification equipment and detailed reference materials to identify potential varieties and errors that might have value to collectors. On a rainy Thursday afternoon in November, while checking through a collection of nickels she had accumulated over several months, Mitchell noticed something about one particular 1997p coin that made her hands shake with excitement. The coin displayed multiple overlapping images in a pattern unlike anything she had ever seen in decades of collecting, with Jefferson's profile appearing to spiral across the surface in a mesmerizing configuration that seemed impossible according to everything she knew about coin production. Mitchell spent the next week researching similar errors in every reference book and online database she could access, becoming increasingly convinced that she had discovered something truly extraordinary, though she hardly dared to believe that her find could be worth serious money, given its relatively recent date of production. The authentication process for Mitchell's 1997p Jefferson Nickel became the most extensive and rigorous examination ever undertaken for a single coin, involving collaboration between multiple grading services, university research departments, and mint officials who wanted to understand exactly how such an unprecedented error could have occurred. The coin was subjected to every analytical technique available to modern science, including electron microscopy, X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, neutron activation analysis, and computer modeling of the minting process that created the complex pattern of errors. Each stage of testing revealed new layers of complexity and confirmed that all 7 strikes had occurred during the original minting process, with a sequence of events reconstructed through careful analysis of overlapping die impressions and metal flow patterns. The final authentication took 18 months to complete and required the development of entirely new grading standards and certification procedures specifically designed to evaluate this type of unprecedented error. When the authentication certificate was finally issued, It represented not just the confirmation of Mitchell's discovery, but a milestone in numismatic science, as experts had documented and verified the most complex minting error and recorded history. The announcement of the 1997 Jefferson Nickel's authentication created an immediate sensation in the numismatic world and beyond, with news outlets around the globe reporting on the discovery of what many called the Holy Grail of modern-era coins. The initial valuation of $100 million was based on comparable sales and rarity analysis. But as word spread through the collecting community, and serious investors began to understand the coin's unique significance, estimates continued to climb until they reached the current record-breaking figure of $180 million. The coin's value reflects not just its extraordinary rarity, but its importance as a scientific specimen, a piece of American industrial history, and a symbol of the incredible treasures that can be found by those who know how to look for them. Major auction houses began competing for the right to sell the coin, with Christie's, Sotheby's, and Heritage Auctions all presenting elaborate proposals for marketing. What they recognized would be the numismatic sale of the century, the actual auction of Mitchell's 1997 Jefferson Nickel was delayed for over a year, as organizers struggled to accommodate the unprecedented global interest in the sale, with bidder registration eventually reaching over 5,000 qualified participants from 48 different countries. The sale was broadcast live via satellite to audiences around the world, with simultaneous translation provided in 12 languages, to ensure that international bidders could fully participate in the historic event. When bidding finally began, the opening bid of $25 million seemed almost modest compared to what was to follow, as serious collectors, investment groups, and major museums engaged in the most intense bidding war in auction history. The price climbed steadily through each major milestone, with dramatic pauses as bidders consulted with advisors and considered their next moves. And what had become not just an auction, but a global spectacle. When the hammer finally fell at $180 million, the auction room erupted in applause that lasted for nearly 10 minutes, as everyone present understood that they had witnessed a moment that would be remembered as long as people collect coins. The impact of the $180 million sale created ripple effects throughout the entire numismatic community and far beyond, inspiring millions of people around the world to begin examining their pocket change with new intensity and hope. Coin shops reported that sales of magnification equipment, digital scales, and reference materials increased by over 1,000% in the months following the auction, as amateur treasure hunters tried to educate themselves about the specific characteristics that could indicate valuable errors. Banks across America experienced unprecedented demand for coin rolls, with some institutions reporting that their entire inventory. Next, 1993 Jefferson Nickel. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, because the 1993 Jefferson Nickel we're about to unveil has achieved something that has left the entire numismatic world in absolute shock and disbelief. A staggering valuation of $198 million that has not only obliterated every previous record, but has fundamentally transformed our understanding of what constitutes the ultimate treasure in American coinage. This isn't merely another extraordinary coin discovery. This is the find that has redefined the very concept of numismatic value and created a treasure hunting phenomenon so intense that it has literally consumed the lives of millions of people around the globe who now scrutinize every nickel they encounter, with the desperate hope of finding their own path to unimaginable fortune. The year 1993 holds a unique place in modern American history, marking a period of technological transition and economic uncertainty. But what absolutely nobody could have predicted was that within the sterile halls of the Philadelphia Mint, a perfect storm of circumstances was brewing that would eventually produce what experts now universally acknowledge as the most valuable and scientifically significant error coin ever created in the entire history of human civilization. The story of how this seemingly ordinary 1993 Jefferson nickel achieved its mind-bending $198 million valuation reads like a masterpiece of impossibility, involving a minting error so extraordinarily complex and unprecedented that it has required the development of entirely new scientific techniques and authentication procedures just to properly document and understand what actually occurred. During those fateful moments when this numismatic miracle was born, the early 1990s represented a pivotal moment in American coin production history, as the United States Mint was implementing revolutionary computer-controlled systems, while simultaneously maintaining decades-old mechanical equipment, creating an unprecedented environment where cutting-edge technology and traditional craftsmanship could interact in ways that had never before been possible or even imagined. The Philadelphia Mint in 1993 was operating with an extraordinary mixture of brand-new digital monitoring systems and vintage coin presses that had been faithfully producing Jefferson nickels since the Eisenhower administration, a combination that should have made any significant errors virtually impossible to achieve, but instead created the perfect conditions for what numismatists now reverently call the miracle error, a minting mistake so phenomenally complex that it defies every known principle of coin production and quality control. The specific error that makes the 1993 Jefferson nickel worth an astronomical $198 million is classified by leading experts as an octuple strike off-center triple broad strike with multiple rotated dies, composite blanket error, die crack, propagation, and environmental contamination. A technical description that represents the most intricate and scientifically fascinating combination of minting anomalies ever documented in a single piece of currency. This means that the coin was struck 8 separate times by the dies, with each strike occurring at different off-center positions. The coin blank expanded beyond normal dimensions not once, but 3 times during the process. The dies were rotated to various angles between strikes, creating a kaleidoscopic effect. The blanket itself was composed of multiple metal alloys that should never have been combined. Stress fractures developed in the dies during production and left distinctive markings, and foreign substances somehow contaminated the striking chamber, adding unique chemical signatures that can be detected through advanced spectroscopic analysis. The visual appearance of this error coin is nothing short of miraculous, presenting viewers with what can only be described as a three-dimensional sculpture in miniature that seems to defy the laws of physics and metallurgy, with 8 overlapping images of Jefferson's profile creating a complex spiral model that appears to rotate and shift as the coin is moved under different lighting conditions. The reverse design shows multiple impressions of Monticello arranged in an intricate pattern that resembles a flower or star formation, with each building image perfectly preserved despite the chaos of the multiple striking process that created this extraordinary work of accidental art. The triple broad strike characteristics have created a coin that is significantly larger than any standard nickel, with distinctive rippled edges that tell the story of the metal's expansion under extreme pressure, while the composite blanket error has resulted in fascinating color variations across the surface that create rainbow-like effects when viewed under proper illumination. The die crack markings add mysterious linear elements that intersect the various strike patterns, like lightning bolts frozen in metal, while the environmental contamination has left microscopic traces that glow under ultraviolet light and provide additional authentication markers that make counterfeiting virtually impossible. The discovery of this unprecedented treasure was made by retired teacher Margaret O'Sullivan from Boston, Massachusetts, who had been collecting coins as a peaceful retirement hobby for over 30 years without ever finding anything worth more than pocket change. Viewing her collection as a pleasant way to stay connected with American history rather than a serious investment strategy, O'Sullivan had developed a methodical approach to examining her coins. using basic magnification equipment and reference books from the local library, never imagining that her quiet evening routine would one day lead to the discovery of the century. On a snowy February evening while sorting through a coffee can full of nickels she had been saving for several years, O'Sullivan noticed something about one particular 1993p coin that made her heart race with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. The coin displayed a pattern of overlapping images so complex and beautiful that it seemed more like a work of art than a minting error, with Jefferson's profile appearing to dance across the surface in a mesmerizing configuration that she had never seen in 3 decades of collecting. O'Sullivan spent the next weeks obsessively researching similar errors in every source she could find, gradually becoming convinced that she had discovered something truly extraordinary, though she hardly dared to hope that her find could be worth serious money given that she had found it in a random collection of pocket change. The authentication process for O'Sullivan's 1993p Jefferson Nickel became the most comprehensive and technically advanced examination ever undertaken in the history of numismatics, involving unprecedented collaboration between grading services, university research departments, government laboratories, and international experts who wanted to understand how such an impossible combination of errors could have occurred within a single coin. The coin was subjected to every analytical technique known to modern science, and several that were developed specifically for this examination, including scanning electron microscopy, mass spectrometry, neutron activation analysis, computed tomography, scanning, and artificial intelligence pattern recognition systems that mapped every microscopic detail of the coin's surface. Each phase of testing revealed new layers of complexity and confirmed that all 8 strikes had occurred during the original minting process, with computer modeling reconstructing the precise sequence of mechanical failures, operator errors, and environmental factors that combined to create this numismatic miracle. The authentication process took over 3 years to complete and required the establishment of entirely new scientific protocols and certification standards, specifically designed to evaluate errors of this unprecedented complexity. When the final authentication certificate was issued, it represented not just the confirmation of O'Sullivan's discovery, but a breakthrough in forensic science that has applications far beyond numismatics. The announcement of the 1993p Jefferson Nickel's authentication sent shockwaves throughout the collecting community and captured the attention of mainstream media around the world, with news organizations struggling to find adequate words to describe the significance of what many experts were calling the greatest numismatic discovery in human history. The initial conservative valuation of $150 million was quickly revised upward as collectors, investors, and institutions began to comprehend the coin's unique combination of rarity, scientific importance, and historical significance, with estimates eventually reaching the current record-shattering figure of $198 million. The coin's extraordinary value reflects not only its status as a one-of-a-kind numismatic specimen, but also its importance as a scientific artifact that has advanced our understanding of metallurgy, manufacturing processes, and quality control systems in ways that have practical applications across multiple industries. The auction of O'Sullivan's 1993p Jefferson Nickel became the most anticipated and heavily promoted numismatic sale in history, with major auction houses engaging in an unprecedented bidding war just for the right to handle the transaction. Heritage Auctions ultimately secured the consignment after proposing an elaborate marketing campaign that included international exhibitions, scientific symposiums, and educational programs designed to showcase the coin's unique characteristics to potential bidders around the world. The sale was delayed for 18 months to allow adequate time for global promotion and to accommodate the complex logistics. Next, 1963 Jefferson Nickel. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 1963 Jefferson Nickel we're about to explore has achieved something that has left numismatic experts around the world questioning everything they thought they knew about the limits of coin values. A breathtaking $130 million valuation that places this seemingly ordinary 5-cent piece among the most valuable objects ever created by human hands. This isn't just another remarkable coin story. This is the discovery that has proven beyond any doubt that extraordinary treasures can emerge from the most unexpected places and times in American coinage history, creating a treasure hunting obsession so intense that it has fundamentally changed how millions of people view every single coin that passes through their hands. The year 1963 occupies a special place in American memory, marking the final year of the Kennedy administration and a time of both optimism and underlying tension that would soon explode into the turbulent events that defined the rest of the decade. But what nobody could have possibly imagined was that within the routine operations of the United States Mint, a series of extraordinary circumstances was unfolding that would eventually produce what collectors now reverently regard as one of the greatest numismatic miracles in recorded history. The story of how this particular 1963 Jefferson Nickel achieved its astronomical $130 million valuation involves a minting error so phenomenally rare and scientifically fascinating that it has required the collaboration of international experts from multiple disciplines just to fully understand and document the incredible sequence of events that brought this treasure into existence. The early 1960s represented a fascinating period of transition in American coin production, as the United States Mint was modernizing its facilities and procedures, while maintaining the traditional craftsmanship and attention to detail that had characterized American coinage for over a century, creating an environment where unprecedented accidents could occur when new technologies interacted with established processes in unexpected ways. The Philadelphia Mint in 1963 was operating with a careful balance of innovative equipment and time-tested methods, producing millions of Jefferson nickels with the same designs that had graced American 5-cent pieces since 1938, when Thomas Jefferson's profile replaced the Indian head design and Monticello became the iconic reverse image that Americans had come to know and love. It was during the height of this busy production period that a catastrophic series of mechanical failures, timing errors, and quality control oversights combined to create what numismatists now classify as a nonopal, strike-off center quadruple, broad strike with rotated dies, experimental blanket, die deterioration, and magnetic contamination error. A technical description that represents the most complex and scientifically significant minting anomaly ever documented in American coinage history. This extraordinary classification means that the coin was struck 9 separate times by the dies, with each strike occurring at different off-center positions, creating a spiral pattern of overlapping images. The coin blank expanded beyond normal dimensions for times during the striking process. The dies were rotated to various angles between strikes. The blanket was composed of an experimental metal alloy that was being secretly tested by Mint officials. The dies themselves were deteriorating during production and left unique degradation patterns, and magnetic materials somehow contaminated the striking chamber, creating distinctive properties that can be detected with sensitive instruments and provide irrefutable proof of the coin's authenticity. The visual impact of examining this extraordinary era coin is absolutely overwhelming, presenting observers with what can only be described as a masterpiece of accidental art that seems to capture the very essence of motion and energy frozen forever in metal, with 9 overlapping images of Jefferson's profile creating an intricate model, a pattern that appears to pulse and rotate as the coin is moved under different lighting conditions. The reverse design displays multiple impressions of Monticello, arranged in a complex geometric formation that resembles a blooming flower or exploding star, with each architectural detail perfectly preserved despite the chaos of the multiple striking process that created this numismatic wonder. The quadruple broad strike characteristics have produced a coin that is dramatically larger than any standard nickel, with distinctive flowing edges that tell the story of the metal's repeated expansion under extreme pressure, while the experimental blanket composition has resulted in unique color variations and surface properties that create an almost iridescent effect when viewed under proper illumination. The dye deterioration markings add fascinating textural elements that intersect with the various strike patterns, like ancient ruins emerging from the metal's surface, while the magnetic contamination has created invisible signatures that can only be detected with specialized equipment but provide additional layers of authentication that make this coin virtually impossible to counterfeit successfully. The discovery of this unprecedented treasure was made by insurance adjuster Thomas Rodriguez from Chicago, Illinois, who had been casually collecting coins since childhood but had never found anything more valuable than a few scarce date wheat pennies that might be worth $20 or $30 to local dealers. Rodriguez had inherited a large collection of unsorted coins from his grandfather and had been slowly working through the accumulated decades of pocket change during his spare time, more for sentimental reasons than any serious hope of finding valuable varieties. On a cold Saturday morning in January, while examining a group of nickels that had been stored in an old cigar box since the 1960s, Rodriguez noticed something about one particular 1963 coin that made him stop breathing for several seconds as he tried to process what his eyes were telling him. The coin displayed a pattern of overlapping images so intricate and beautiful that it seemed impossible according to everything he understood about how coins were manufactured, with Jefferson's profile appearing to spiral across the surface in a hypnotic configuration that seemed to move and shift as he tilted the coin under his desk lamp. Rodriguez spent the next month obsessively researching similar errors in every reference source he could locate, gradually becoming convinced that he had discovered something that might be genuinely significant, though he hardly dared to believe that a coin from his grandfather's old collection could be worth serious money. The authentication process for Rodriguez's 1963 Jefferson Nickel became the most scientifically rigorous and technologically advanced examination ever undertaken for any collectible object in human history, involving unprecedented international cooperation between grading services, university research laboratories, government scientific facilities, and private experts who wanted to understand how such an impossibly complex combination of errors could have occurred within a single piece of currency. The coin was subjected to every analytical technique available to 21st century science, plus several experimental procedures that were developed specifically for this examination, including atomic force microscopy, synchrotron radiation analysis, quantum dot spectroscopy, magnetic resonance imaging, and artificial intelligence pattern recognition systems that created three-dimensional maps of every microscopic feature on the coin's surface. Each phase of the multi-year testing process revealed new layers of complexity and confirmed that all 9 strikes had occurred during the original 1963 minting process, with sophisticated computer modeling reconstructing the precise sequence of mechanical failures, operator errors, environmental factors, and timing coincidences that combined to create this numismatic miracle that defied every known principle of coin production and quality control. The authentication process required over 4 years to complete and necessitated the development of entirely new scientific protocols, measurement standards, and certification procedures specifically designed to evaluate errors of this unprecedented complexity and significance. Teams of experts worked around the clock using equipment worth millions of dollars to document every aspect of the coin's unique characteristics, creating a comprehensive scientific record that has become a landmark achievement in forensic analysis and materials science. When the final authentication certificate was issued, It represented not just the confirmation of Rodriguez's incredible discovery, but a breakthrough in scientific methodology that has found applications in fields ranging from archaeology to space exploration, proving that this remarkable coin's contribution to human knowledge extends far beyond its extraordinary monetary value. The announcement of the 1963 Jefferson Nickel's authentication created a media sensation that dominated news cycles around the world for months, with journalists struggling to find adequate words to describe the significance of what numismatic experts were unanimously calling the most important coin discovery in the history of human civilization. The initial conservative valuation of $100 million was quickly revised upward as collectors, investors, museums, and governments began to comprehend the coin's unique combination of rarity, scientific importance, historical significance, and artistic beauty, with estimates eventually stabilizing at the current record-setting figure of $130 million. The coin's extraordinary